3 horrific cemetery horror stories. Story 1. The Gravekeeper's Vengeance. My name is Mark, and I'm about to share a chilling story that still haunts my dreams. A tale of a cemetery, a vengeful spirit, and a horrifying night I'll never forget. It began when my friends and I decided to spend the night at an old, neglected cemetery rumored to be haunted. We scoffed at the superstitions, dismissing them as mere tales to spook the locals. Little did we know that we were about to unleash a malevolent force that defied explanation. As the midnight hour approached, we gathered around a weathered tombstone, our flashlights casting eerie shadows across the cracked gravestones. The air grew heavy with an unsettling stillness, and the moon shone like a pale eye, watching our every move. That's when we heard it, the mournful wail of a woman, her voice carrying a palpable sense of sorrow. We scanned the graveyard, but there was no one in sight. The wailing grew louder, closer, as if drawing nearer with each passing moment. Panic set in as we realized that we were not alone in the cemetery. Apparitions began to materialize, ethereal figures in tattered burial shrouds, their eyes hollow and filled with malice. They circled us, their spectral hands reaching out to touch us, sending shivers down our spines. Then at the center of the graveyard, a shadowy figure emerged, a man cloaked in darkness with a sinister grin. His eyes burned like coals, and his voice was a chilling whisper that cut through the night. He introduced himself as the Gravekeeper, the guardian of the cemetery, and he accused us of desecrating the sacred resting place of the dead. We tried to flee, but an invisible force held us in place, our feet anchored to the ground. The Gravekeeper's vengeance was swift and merciless. He summoned the spirits of the departed, who clawed at our flesh with icy fingers, their faces twisted with rage. We screamed, but our cries were drowned out by the wailing of the mournful woman. I still remember the feeling of their frigid touch, the pain of their spectral claws, and the suffocating darkness that threatened to consume us. It was a night of pure terror, a night when we crossed the boundary between the living and the dead. In the end, we managed to escape the cemetery, but the horrors of that night continue to haunt us. The Gravekeeper's vengeance left an indelible mark on our souls, a reminder that some places are best left undisturbed, and some curses are best left unbroken. Please subscribe Fright Forge for more such scary stories.
Story 2. The Phantom Mourner. I am Jessica, and the story I'm about to tell you is a haunting tale of a cemetery, a mysterious mourner, and an inexplicable terror that still chills me to the bone. It all began when I visited a historic cemetery, drawn by its serene beauty and the allure of its ancient gravestones. As I wandered among the markers, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of sadness that hung in the air like a heavy shroud. It was then that I noticed her, a woman in a tattered black mourning gown, her face obscured by a thick veil. She knelt before a weathered tombstone, her shoulders trembling as she wept. I approached her, intending to offer comfort, but something about her sent a shiver down my spine. When I touched her shoulder, she turned to face me, and I recoiled in horror. Her face was a grotesque, skeletal visage, her eyes empty voids of darkness. She whispered mournful words that sent chills through my soul, her voice a lament that echoed through the cemetery. I tried to back away, but an unseen force held me in place, as if the very earth beneath me had turned to quicksand. The phantom mourner's cries grew louder, and the air grew frigid, as if the cold hand of death itself had grasped me. Then, from the ground, skeletal hands emerged, clawing their way toward me. They grabbed at my ankles, pulling me down into the earth. Panic set in as I realized that I was being dragged into an unmarked grave, swallowed by the cemetery itself. I fought with all my strength, clawing my way to the surface, my heart pounding in my chest. As I emerged from the grave, the phantom mourner's wails filled the air, and I fled the cemetery, my mind a whirlwind of terror. To this day, I bear the scars of that horrifying encounter, a reminder that some mourners in the cemetery are not what they seem, and that the boundary between the living and the dead is a fragile one.
Story 3. The Unholy Pact. My name is Daniel, and the cemetery horror story I'm about to share is a testament to the darkness that can lurk within the sacred grounds of the dead, a darkness that once touched me and left an indelible mark on my soul. It all began when I stumbled upon an ancient, forgotten cemetery nestled in a remote forest. The tombstones were weathered and overgrown, bearing the names of those who had been laid to rest there centuries ago. The air was heavy with an eerie silence, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl. As I explored the cemetery, my curiosity led me to a particularly ornate mausoleum, its stone door adorned with intricate carvings. Without thinking, I pushed it open, revealing a dimly lit chamber. At the center lay a stone sarcophagus, a heavy chain coiled around it. As I approached, a voice whispered in my ear, a voice that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the tomb. It spoke of an unholy pact, of a curse that bound the souls of those interred within the mausoleum to a malevolent force. Unable to resist, I reached out and touched the sarcophagus, and the room seemed to come alive with an otherworldly presence. The air grew cold, and the shadows twisted and contorted, forming grotesque shapes that danced around me. Then, from the depths of the sarcophagus, a spectral figure emerged, a woman with eyes like burning coals and a voice that was both seductive and horrifying. She offered me power beyond imagination, riches beyond my wildest dreams, in exchange for a simple favor, a favor that would damn my soul for all eternity. Desperation gripped me as I considered the offer, but a glimmer of sanity remained. With all my strength, I pulled away from the mausoleum, the chains rattling as they fell to the ground. The spectral figure screamed in rage, her voice a cacophony of torment. I fled the cemetery, the echoes of her scream ringing in my ears. I knew that I had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death, a fate that would have bound me to the unholy pact for all eternity. To this day, I carry the weight of that horrifying encounter, a reminder that some secrets in the cemetery are best left undisturbed, and that the price of power can be a soul-shattering terror. Subscribe for more such horror stories and share with your friends. Thanks for watching Fright Forge.